Small rings are right underneath that area, so whenever you discriminate out nails and foil, you're toying with the possibility of a very tiny ring. At that point, right above the small rings is a 1 in a triangle. That's what we recommend for you to get jewelry and most all coins and most jewelry. That is the greater abundance of wedding bands and larger rings. Then it passes an area called 5 cent, it's marked, and then the word jewelry and rings and pull tabs. And we don't recommend for an avid hunter to start discriminating out those items because the gold rings are really a desirable item. So we like to stay at triangle 1 as a preset. I rarely do anything but reduce that. And we can talk about that a little later, why one would reduce it. Maybe Greg will talk about that. The second number is number 2 inside a triangle, and that's way up there at the top. So you've eliminated most all the gold jewelry. In fact, you haven't eliminated all the gold jewelry, all the small rings, all the nails, all the foil, all the pull tabs, and leaving just behind mostly silver coins and large clad coins. So one could put there, if they were just into that, and leave the rings for me, because I go back and put mine way down here. The second control is the one furthest from me. That's called sense. On earlier detectors, we call that gain control. Sensitivity and gain are much the same thing. But sensitivity means that as you turn the dial clockwise, you're increasing the amount of sensitivity to a target. That is to say, a deeper target could be found, a smaller target could be found more readily, the more gain you have. On the left side, it says power off, and of course, as soon as you click, you will hear that, and from then you can adjust your sensitivity and put it, to start with, of course, at the triangle, which would be your factory suggested starting position. The gain control is sort of like the pedal on your gas pedal on a car. If you want it set in a place which is going to keep you on the road. And a sensitivity control is a control that's very essential and must be set according to the ground and according to the external environment interference that you might have. We'll go into that later as well. But that sense control is a full marked arbitrarily 0 through 100. There's a cross-hatched portion at the top which indicates be careful when you're in that area. That's like putting your foot to the floor. If you can operate there without false signaling and extraneous noises, and Greg will go into this, because ground mineral can give you false noises, radio transmissions can, 60 cycle interference from telephone poles can, and the way you control the environment is by turning that counterclockwise. Now at preset, it'll handle most anything, but if you're in an area with a lot of noise, a lot of radio interference, or very bad ground, you will more than likely start turning this counterclockwise. Don't be afraid. I like to liken it to driving a car on a curvy road. If you're driving at 50 miles an hour on a straight road or 60 miles an hour and everything's cool, and then you get into a curved road, which is sort of like into an area which got 60 cycle in it or radio interference, you would slow down or you're going to end up in the ocean, like here at Montara Beach. You don't want to do that. So you back off the foot pedal, you back off the gas, and allow yourself to have an appropriate amount of sensitivity. That will get you the targets. Too much sensitivity, you're just going to blow away the signal and you won't hear anything. Right above it, and between 80 and 100 is about 90, and that's where the triangle is, which is again the factory suggested place. That's a safe place to be. It gives you optimum performance in most areas. You can go lower if you've got problems with the ground, problems with the environmental noises, or you can go higher if everything will allow you to do it. In addition, when you're on a beach like we are, and you have salt water, and you possibly have black sand in the sand that's underneath the layer, this will present itself as interference as well. And again, you can back off this gain. When you go into the salt water, into the very wet sand, you're going to find out you'll have to back off quite a ways on occasion, depending upon the mineralization that accompanies the black sand, or the salt rather, that's in the water. So you have control of your environment with this sensitivity control. Those are the only two knobs on the detector. The toggle switch to the right is called auto track toggle. And this is an important control. You don't have to do much of anything with it except to set it. It's got a position that's marked beach, a position that's marked on, and a center position that's marked lock off. What the auto track is automatically ground balancing the detector. This is one of the main features of the M6. Like its big brother, an MXT, it can cancel just about any ground that you're involved with. This means it'll be top performance. This detector will perform everywhere from coast to coast. Regardless of the kind of mineralization, it will track out that mineralization, and is done automatically as you sweep the detector from side to side. This is essential to get top performance out of any detector, and we're happy that we were able to do this on a detector at this price range. The M6 has no competition in that regard. The toggle switch in the beach position is pretty obvious. If you were at the beach like we are today, because of the salt component, we've adjusted the auto tracking function to help to get rid of some of that salt in the dry sand and moist sand. The bottom position with the toggle down says on. What that means that it's tracking on. Beach position is on as well, but this is just labeled on, and that means ground conditions. And this would be mostly the negative component of ground, where salt is positive, mineralized iron ore, magnetite, that type of thing that you find in certain areas like the mountainous regions of California and the West Coast, the Northeast of the United States also has negative mineralization to a great degree, and the Northwest. So that on position is where the preset is, because most people are going to be using it there the bulk of the time, probably on land conditions. So that would be the factory suggested position, which is that little triangle again. The center position means tracking off. And you might ask, why do we have tracking off? There are some occasions when you might find it more comfortable to use no tracking at all. And off the top of my head, the best way I can explain that is when you're operating a detector and the ground is changing very, very fast, I mean, faster than you would normally have it change from foot to foot, and we get what is known as squirrely ground. It just squirrels around, and you notice that you get some falsing, and you dropping the sensitivity hasn't always done the trick. The option is there for you to balance the detector, just move the loop up and down a couple of times, and then take it off of track and put it into track off. That will lock it in to that position of ground, and it would become less noisy or less squirrely. This is not the intensity of the ground, but how fast the ground moves. Sometimes it moves just too fast for tracking to handle it, although this detector tracks faster than anything. In fact, it has the same tracking system as our Goldmaster GMT and our MXT, which are top-of-the-line detectors, and we use the same tracking platform to design the M6. So I think it's going to handle just about everything, but it's that off-track is there just for that rare occasion when you would want to maybe do this. Working on bedrock sometimes, where you're near a beach and you've got a lot of rock, sometimes the rocks itself are very mineralized, and locking it in so you can find coins people have dropped in between the big rocks. Another area that you might want to lock tracking off would be in areas that are abundant in trash. Trashy areas where there are targets in every sweep almost, and one tends to rattle the tracking system of any detector when you constantly are going over rejected items that you've set on your discriminator control. So taking the tracking off will allow you to work more slowly and find targets in between the pieces of trash, and of course you'd slow down your sweep speed. Those three controls is all there is to deal with on the control box. There's one other control which comes into play. It's underneath the display, which is the portion that has a VDI display here and a little graph underneath it. This trigger switch, which I won't call a toggle, I call it a trigger because it acts like a trigger on a gun. It has three positions. The trigger switch locks forward, stays in the center position without touching, and when you squeeze it into its backward position for pinpointing purposes, it jumps forward when you let go of the toggle. So the trigger can be held with a momentary position and let go, goes back to center. Search position is in the center, you don't touch it. Lock position forward when you enter the audio discrimination portion of the discriminate controls. When you start hunting, you'll have it in the center position. This means as you're searching for your target, whether it's going to be rings or coins or jewelry, whatever you're looking for, it's in the center position. There the detector will make a noise over a metal target and try to exclude trash items according to how you set your